The Planet That Dreamed of Us. A Sci-Fi Story. Part 1. The Night That Moved. Ray jolted awake to the sound of mountains grinding against each other. For a moment she didn't know where she was, only that the world was moving, the ground trembling beneath her cot as if the entire planet were shifting in its sleep. The air inside the lander tasted metallic, vibrating with a low, resonant hum that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then memory snapped back into place. Expedition Theta 9. Planet designation: Somnus 3. Uncharted. Unmapped. Supposedly lifeless. Supposedly. Ray swung her legs off the cot and steadied herself against the wall as another tremor rolled through the lander. Dust sifted from the ceiling. The lights flickered. "Not again," she muttered. The tremors had started on their second night. At first they'd thought it was tectonic activity, until the satellite scans showed the impossible. Entire mountain ranges had shifted position. Rivers had vanished. Forests had appeared fully grown where there had been barren plains the day before. The planet rearranged itself every night. And now, as the tremors intensified, Ray felt the same cold dread she'd felt the previous nights, but stronger, sharper, as if something beneath the crust was stirring with purpose. She grabbed her jacket and pushed out of the lander into the pre-dawn gloom. The sky was a deep violet, the horizon glowing faintly with the first hints of morning. The air was still unnervingly so. No wind, no rustling, no sound except the distant, grinding rumble of shifting terrain. The camp was already awake. Dr. Imani stood near the edge of the ridge, tablet in hand, her dark hair whipping around her face even though there was no wind. She looked pale, exhausted. Captain Holt was beside her, jaw clenched, scanning the horizon with binoculars. And near the equipment crates, Jace was pacing, muttering to himself, rubbing his temples as if trying to push something out of his skull. Ray approached them. "What's the situation?" Imani didn't look up. The western ridge moved again, by at least 3 kilometers. "That's more than last night." "Everything is more than last night," Imani said quietly. Holt lowered the binoculars. "And there's something else. Look." He handed them to Ray. She lifted them to her eyes and froze. The ridge wasn't just different. It wasn't just relocated. It was shaped. The mountains had shifted into a curve, a sweeping arc. And at the center of that arc, the rising sun cast shadows that formed a shape Ray recognized instantly. A human face. Not perfect, not detailed, but unmistakable. A colossal impression of a face carved into the land itself, as if the planet had pressed its cheek against the surface from below. Ray lowered the binoculars slowly. "That wasn't there yesterday." "No," Holt said. "It wasn't." Jace stopped pacing. "It's dreaming again." Ray turned to him. "Jace, we don't know that." "Yes, we do." His voice cracked. "We all had the same dream. Again." Ray's stomach tightened. The dreams had started on their third night. At first they'd brushed it off as stress, coincidence, shared suggestion. But then the details had aligned too perfectly. A colossal being sleeping beneath the crust. A presence that felt ancient, vast, and aware. A sense of being watched from below. And last night's dream had been the worst yet. Ray swallowed. "We need to talk about that. But first." A deep, resonant vibration rolled through the ground, stronger than before. The crates rattled. The lander groaned. The ridge in the distance shifted visibly, as if something beneath it was stretching. Imani's tablet beeped frantically. "Oh God," she whispered. "It's accelerating." "What is?" Ray asked. "The movement, the rearrangement cycle, is happening earlier and faster." Holt straightened. "We break camp. Now, we're leaving." Ray nodded, but Jace didn't move. "We can't leave," he said softly. Holt turned sharply. "The hell we can't." Jace shook his head, eyes wide, pupils dilated. "It won't let us." Ray stepped closer. "Jace, listen to me." "You didn't hear it," he whispered. "Not like I did." Ray felt a chill crawl up her spine. "Hear what?" Jace looked at her with hollow eyes. "The planet. It spoke. The dream that wasn't a dream. They gathered inside the lander, the tremors growing more frequent. Holt sealed the hatch and activated the stabilizers, though Ray doubted they'd do much if the ground decided to roll over again. Imani projected the dream logs onto the central display. "We need to compare what we remember," she said. "Objectively." Jace laughed, a short, brittle sound. "Objectively. Sure." Ray ignored him and focused on the display. The logs showed biometric spikes from all four of them at the same time during the night. Elevated heart rate, rapid eye movement, stress responses, identical timestamps. "Okay," Ray said. "Let's start with what we all saw." Imani nodded. "The being." Ray closed her eyes, recalling the dream, though calling it a dream felt wrong. It had been too vivid, too real. A vast shape beneath the crust. Not humanoid, not anything she could describe. More like a presence. Consciousness. Immense and slow and ancient. Sleeping, breathing, dreaming. And the voice, Imani added quietly. A low-frequency resonance. Not words, but intent. Ray nodded. "It felt like it was aware of us." "It is aware of us," Jace said. "It's been aware since we landed." Holt crossed his arms. "Dreams don't mean anything. They're not just dreams," Jace snapped. "You know that. You felt it." Holt hesitated just for a moment, and Ray saw the truth in his eyes. He had felt it. They all had. Ray exhaled slowly. "Okay, so the dreams are real, or at least shared. But what about the message? Did anyone understand it?" Imani shook her head. "Not in words. More like impressions." "Same," Ray said. Jace leaned forward. "I understood it." They all turned to him. "What did it say?" Ray asked. Jace's voice dropped to a whisper. It said, "You are the dream." Silence filled the lander. Ray felt her pulse quicken. "That doesn't make sense." "It makes perfect sense," Jace said. "We're not just dreaming about it. It's dreaming about us. And every night the dream gets clearer. More detailed." Imani's eyes widened. "The terrain changes." Ray felt the realization hit her like a blow. "The planet is shaping itself based on the dream." Jace nodded. "And the dream is us." The first sign of waking. Another tremor hit, stronger than any before. The lander shook violently. Equipment toppled. The lights flickered. Holt grabbed the console. "We're taking off. Now." Imani's hands flew across the controls. "Stabilizers are failing. We need 30 seconds to warm the engines." "We don't have 30 seconds," Holt growled. The tremor intensified. A deep, resonant hum filled the air. The same frequency they'd heard in their dreams. Ray felt it in her bones. The planet was humming. Jace pressed his hands to his ears. "It's waking up." Ray grabbed his shoulders. "Jace, focus. What does that mean?" He looked at her with terror. "It means it's trying to understand us. And it can't do that while we're like this." "Like what?" "Separate. Small. Fragmented." Ray's blood ran cold. "Jace, it's trying to reshape us," he whispered, "into something it recognizes." The hum grew louder. The ground beneath the lander buckled. Imani shouted, "Engines online." Holt slammed the ignition. The lander lurched upward, then stopped. Ray felt her stomach drop. "We're not moving," she said. Imani's voice trembled. "Something is holding us down." The hum deepened, vibrating through the hull. Ray looked out the viewport, and her breath caught. The ground around the lander was rising. Not like a quake. Not like tectonic movement. It was forming shapes. Hands. Colossal hands of earth and stone. Reaching upward. Curling around the lander like fingers closing around a fragile toy. Jace whispered, "It's dreaming us into place." Holt shouted, "Full thrust." The engines roared, but the hands tightened. The lander groaned, metal straining. Imani's voice broke. "We're not breaking free." Ray stared at the rising hands, at the shifting terrain, at the face forming in the distant ridge. And she felt it. A presence. Awake. Watching. Understanding. The hum filled her skull, vibrating behind her eyes. And then a voice. Not sound. Not language. A thought. Stay. Ray gasped. Amani clutched her head. Did you? Yes, Ray whispered. I heard it. Holt swore under his breath. What the hell is happening? Jace answered. It's not just dreaming us anymore. He looked at them with hollow certainty. It's dreaming through us. The bleed. The hands of Earth tightened around the lander, anchoring it to the ground. The engines screamed in protest, but the planet held firm. Ray felt the hum intensify, resonating with her heartbeat. Her vision blurred. For a moment she wasn't in the lander anymore. She was underground, deep beneath the crust, floating in a vast, dark expanse. And in that darkness something stirred, a shape too large to comprehend. A consciousness that spanned continents. A mind that dreamed in landscapes and thought in tectonic shifts. Turned toward her. Not physically. It had no physical form she could perceive, but its attention swept over her like a tidal wave. Ray felt herself unravel. She gasped and fell to her knees as the vision snapped away. Amani knelt beside her. Ray, what did you see? Ray struggled to breathe. It's not just a planet. It's a mind. A dreaming mind. Jace nodded. And we're inside its dream. Holt slammed his fist against the console. We need to get out of here. We can't, Jace said. Not until it lets us. Ray forced herself to stand. Then we make it let us. Jace shook his head. You don't understand. It doesn't think like we do. It doesn't understand individuality. It dreams in wholes, in unity, in shapes that span kilometers. Amani swallowed. Then what does it want from us? Jace looked at the hands of Earth gripping the lander. It wants us to stop being separate. Ray felt a chill crawl up her spine. It wants to merge us. The hum deepened. The ground shifted. And outside the viewport, the face in the ridge began to change, becoming more detailed, more human, more like them. Amani whispered, It's learning. Ray stared at the forming face. No, she said softly. It's remembering. The first transformation. The hum reached a pitch that made Ray's teeth ache. The lander shook violently. Sparks flew from the console. Amani shouted, Systems failing. Holt grabbed the manual override. We're blowing the clamps. Brace. He hit the release. Explosive bolts detonated beneath the lander. The hands of Earth shattered. The lander lurched upward, free for a moment. Then the ground rose to meet them. A wall of Earth surged upward like a wave, slamming into the underside of the lander. The impact threw them against their harnesses. The engines sputtered. Ray tasted blood. Amani screamed, We're going down! The lander spun, crashing into the shifting terrain. Metal crumpled. Glass shattered. The world became a blur of motion and sound. Then, silence. Dust settled. Ray opened her eyes. The lander lay on its side, half buried in earth. Sparks flickered from exposed wiring. The air smelled of smoke and ozone. Holt groaned. Everyone alive? Amani coughed. Barely. Jace didn't answer. Ray unbuckled herself and crawled toward him. He sat slumped against the wall, eyes open, staring at nothing. Jace. Ray shook him gently. Hey, stay with me. He blinked slowly. It's here, he whispered. Ray frowned. What is? He lifted a trembling hand and pointed at the viewport. Ray turned and froze. The ground outside was rising again. Not randomly, not chaotically. It was forming a shape, a human hand. But this time it wasn't made of earth. It was made of flesh, pale, smooth, perfect. A hand the size of a building, emerging from the ground like something being born. Amani gasped. Oh God. Holt whispered. It's copying us. Ray felt her heart hammering. No, she said. It's becoming us. The hand flexed. The fingers curled. And then, slowly, deliberately, it reached toward the shattered lander. Jace whispered, It's waking up. Ray stared at the approaching hand. No, she said. It's dreaming us into reality. Part 2. The waking shape. The hand paused inches from the shattered hull, its skin impossibly smooth, unmarred by pores or veins. It hovered there, trembling slightly, as if uncertain how to touch something so small. Ray felt the tremor in her bones. It's hesitating, she whispered. Imani shook her head. No, it's studying us. The fingers curled inward not to crush, but to mimic, to understand. The hand rotated, palm up, as though offering itself. Jace exhaled shakily. It's asking us to come out. Holt barked a laugh that held no humor. Not happening. But Ray wasn't so sure. The hum in her skull had softened, shifting from pressure to invitation. A pulse, a rhythm, a heartbeat not her own. She stepped toward the cracked hatch. Ray, Holt warned. We can't stay in here, she said. It knows we're trapped. It's not trying to kill us. Yet, Holt muttered. Ray placed her hand on the emergency release. The metal was warm, too warm, as if the planet's flesh hand radiated heat through the hull. She pulled the lever. The hatch groaned open. A rush of air swept in warm, humid, carrying a faint scent like rain on stone. Ray stepped out onto the tilted ground. The hand waited. Imani climbed out behind her, eyes wide. Holt followed, weapon drawn though it looked absurdly small against the colossal appendage. Jace stumbled out last, leaning heavily on the hull. The hand lowered itself, palm up, forming a platform. Ray felt the hum again, a gentle push inside her mind. Come, she swallowed. It wants us to step on. Holt shook his head. We're not climbing onto that thing. Jace whispered. We already have. They turned. The ground beneath their feet was no longer dirt. It was skin, pale, smooth, warm. The entire plane had transformed while they were inside the lander. Imani staggered back. No, 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 no. Ray steadied her. It's not attacking. It's changing. Into us, Jace said. Into what it dreams we are. The hum deepened. The hand rose slightly, urging. Ray took a breath and stepped onto the palm. The surface gave slightly under her weight, soft but firm, like living muscle. The hum intensified, resonating through her bones. Imani hesitated, then followed. Holt cursed under his breath but climbed on, weapon still raised. Jace stepped onto the hand last, and the moment his foot touched the surface, the fingers curled gently around them. Not trapping, holding, lifting. The hand rose, carrying them upward as the landscape shifted beneath them. Hills flattened, valleys filled, the terrain smoothed into a vast, undulating plain of pale flesh stretching to the horizon. Ray felt her breath catch. The planet wasn't forming human shapes. It was forming a body, a colossal, continent-spanning body, and they were standing on its hand. The mind beneath. The hand carried them across the shifting landscape, moving with slow, deliberate grace. Ray felt no fear now, only awe. The hum in her skull had become a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat syncing with her own. Imani clutched her tablet, though it flickered uselessly. This is impossible. The mass displacement alone. It's not displacement, Jace said softly. It's dreaming. Holt glared at him. Dreams don't rewrite geology. This one does. Ray looked out across the plain. In the distance, the ridge face had changed again. It was no longer a vague impression. It was detailed, human, eyes closed, serene, as if in deep sleep. But as the hand approached, the eyes opened. Ray froze. The eyes were enormous, each the size of a lake. Their irises were swirling patterns of stone and soil and something deeper, something alive. The gaze settled on them. Ray felt it like a weight, a pressure behind her eyes. Imani gasped and clutched her head. Holt staggered. Jace fell to his knees. Ray remained standing. The gaze held her. And then a voice. Not sound. Not thought. Emerging. You are small. Fragmented. Alone. We dream in wholes. We dream in unity. We dream you. Ray felt her mind stretch, pulled toward something vast and incomprehensible. She saw visions, not memories, not dreams, but impressions of a consciousness that spanned continents. A mind that had never known separation. A being that had slept for millennia, dreaming landscapes into existence. And now it dreamed them. Ray whispered, "What do you want from us?" The answer came like a tide. To understand. To become. To wake. The ground trembled. The face in the ridge shifted, features rippling like clay. "You are many. We are one. We must become the same." Ray felt her heart race. "You want to merge us?" "Yes. To wake, we must know you. To know you, we must be you. To be you, you must join." Holt raised his weapon. "Not happening." The planet's gaze shifted to him. "Fear. Resistance. Fragmentation. These are wounds. We will heal them." The hand tightened slightly, not enough to harm, but enough to remind them of its power. Jace whispered, "It doesn't understand individuality. Thinks merging is healing." Amani trembled. "We need to make it understand that we can't survive that." Ray shook her head. "No. We need to understand what it means by merging." The hum deepened. The hand lowered them toward the ground, toward a vast, circular depression forming in the flesh plane. The edges pulsed gently, like the rim of a colossal heartbeat. A cradle. A womb. A place of transformation. Ray felt the pull in her mind. Join. Become. Wake. Holt fired. The shot echoed across the plain. A tiny, futile sound. The bullet struck the flesh ground and dissolved, absorbed instantly. The hum shifted. Not anger. Disappointment. Fragment resists. Fragment fears. Fragment must be made whole. The ground beneath Holt liquefied. He fell with a shout, sinking into the flesh like quicksand. Ray lunged for him, but the hand held her back gently. Holt's scream cut off as the ground closed over him. Amani sobbed, "Oh God, Holt!" Ray stared at the spot where he had vanished. "Is he alive?" The planet answered, "He is becoming." Jace whispered, "It's absorbing him." Ray clenched her fists. "We need to stop this. You cannot stop waking. You cannot stop becoming. You are the dream. We are the dreamer. We wake together." The ground beneath them began to pulse. Ray felt her vision blur, her thoughts stretch, herself unravel. The unmaking. Ray fell to her knees as the hum intensified, vibrating through her skull. The world around her dissolved into shifting shapes. Flesh becoming stone, becoming sky, becoming thought. She felt herself slipping, losing boundaries, losing self. Amani screamed beside her, clutching her head. Jace lay curled on the ground, trembling violently. Ray forced herself to focus, to anchor, to remain. "Stop!" she whispered. The hum paused. The world stilled. The planet listened. Ray stood barely and faced the colossal ridge face. "You want to understand us," she said, "but you're destroying us. We are healing. We are making whole. You are broken. You are many. You must be one." Ray shook her head. "No. Being many is what makes us who we are. Fragmentation is pain. Separation is wound. We will close the wound." Ray stepped forward. "Let me show you." The hum shifted, curious. "Show." Ray closed her eyes. She thought of Holt. Stubborn, brave, infuriating. She thought of Amani. Brilliant, compassionate, terrified. She thought of Jace. Fragile, perceptive, haunted. She thought of herself. Flawed, determined, afraid. For minds. For selves. For stories. Separate. And beautiful. She opened her eyes. "This is what we are," she said. "Not one. Many. And that's not a wound. It's a strength." The planet's gaze deepened. "We do not understand. Show more." Ray took a breath and stepped off the hand. The ground rippled beneath her feet, but did not swallow her. She walked across the flesh plane, each step a statement of self. She reached Amani and helped her stand. She reached Jace and lifted him to his feet. She turned back to the ridge face. We are not meant to merge, she said. We are meant to connect, to learn, to share, without losing ourselves. The hum trembled. Connection, not merging, not becoming one, becoming many? Ray nodded. Yes. The planet fell silent. The hum faded. The ground stilled. For a moment, Ray feared it had rejected her. Then, slowly, the ridge face changed. The features softened. The eyes closed. And a new hum rose, gentle, curious, questioning. Teach, share, dream with us. Not as one, as many. Ray felt tears sting her eyes. Yes, she whispered. We can do that. The ground beneath them shifted, not violently, but gently, lifting them upward on a rising platform of earth and flesh. The lander's wreckage emerged from the ground, placed carefully beside them. A gesture, a gift, a beginning. Amani exhaled shakily. Is it letting us go? Ray shook her head. No, it's inviting us to stay. Jace looked at the horizon, where new shapes were forming. Not human, not alien, but something in between. Then what happens now? Ray watched the landscape reshape itself. Not into bodies, but into patterns. Symbols, ideas, dreams. We learn, she said, and it learns. And maybe we dream together. The hum resonated softly in her mind. Together, as many, as whole, as dream. Ray smiled. For the first time since landing, she felt no fear. Only wonder. The planet dreamed. And now they dreamed with it. This is the end of the sci-fi story, The Planet That Dreamed of Us. Leave a like if you enjoyed the story, and subscribe for more sci-fi stories. Thanks for listening.